Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Next Level Teaching. I'm your host, Jeremy Anderson, here as always with my super dope co-host, Miss Tori Rodriguez, a.k.a. T-Rod. What's up?
Hey, y'all. What's
How
up,
you
Jay?
feeling?
I'm good. I'm
Good.
so excited. It's a little crisp outside, getting that sweater weather. And I'm loving it.
Yes. And on top of that, we got a super dope guest today. I'm excited.
I'm super excited. We have Paige McGaughey here with us. And I'm super excited to talk with her and hear a little bit about her heart for her kids. But before we do that, Jeremy, why don't you tell everyone who we are here at Next Level Teaching?
Hey, so look, y'all, we're some regular, goofy, fun-loving people who are passionate about education and teachers. And we want you to laugh, learn, and live your best life in and out the classroom. So we've been really blessed, Tori, to have some of the most inspiring minds in the areas of education that join us on our podcast. So we're here to help you go to the next level. You know what I'm saying? And so, Tori, tell us about our guest, and we're going to get into it and go from there.
All right. So today with us, we have Paige McGaughey, who is a mom of two, correct?
Yes.
College students, yes.
Nice. Good
she's
job.
been teaching for 20 years, took off some time to actually stay home. Yes, and I love that. Currently teaching 8th grade language arts, coming from 6th.
Yes.
Making the jump.
Yes.
Making the jump. But with me on the middle school thing, Jeremy knows, and I think most of our listeners know at this point, the little ones are not my thing. And so anytime I have a middle or a high school person with us, I'm like, yes.
Let's go.
Someone that feels my heart with it, especially middle school.
Right.
And you've taught 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yes.
And then reading, social studies, and language arts.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
All the things, all the words.
Yes,
and
all the words.
And so I'm like,
there you go.
Just don't say Pythagorean theory to me.
He hates that thing. He hates it.
Man, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
I'm excited.
So I'm intrigued, right? So you've been in education since, I believe, 91.
Yes.
And so you've got 20 years of actually teaching, but you left the classroom for some years. Tell me about that. Was that around the time you had children, or did you take up another occupation or the career path? What was that?
Well, it was when I had my first child, my daughter.
Okay.
And my husband and I had thought I would go back to work, but, as we did the numbers, it's like we're basically paying for her to be in daycare.
Gotcha.
And so I thought I would just take off a few years, but it ended up being a decade, and I was very involved with their schools and PTA president and all of those.
So she was still in the school.
They couldn't keep you away.
And the fact that you were still involved in school, despite the fact that you weren't a teacher. I love that you've seen that side of it as well.
Absolutely. And I would go up and do tutoring with kids one-on-one with reading and different things like that too in their school.
So you couldn't stay away if you wanted to.
I could not. I could not.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So I'm intrigued. We always ask our guests this, right? Because we believe this is not a career or an occupation. This is a calling. You got to be called and a little crazy.
You got to be a little crazy.
A little cuckoo to do this work, right? When did you first know that you were called to be an educator?
It was really when I was in college, and it was not what I had intended to do.
What were you going to study?
I was going into journalism.
Okay.
And I was going into journalism, yes. And I kind of make the joke, which is not really that funny, but that I went into teaching for the money, because when I was in college, one of my journalism professors said, okay, so just so you all know, like New York Times, Washington Post isn't going to happen right now, and you're probably going to be with a local paper, and you'll probably be making about $10,000, $12,000 a year. Wow. And I remember thinking, wow, that wasn't really like my dream to be, So that was part of it. And then I was the pledge educator in my sorority. And
I saw that.
Yeah. And one of my sorority sisters said, you kind of seem like you have a gift for this, and that this is something that is good for you. And she was an elementary education major.
And then you said, how much do you make?
Yeah. And then I was like, what? Double? Like 20,000?
Oh my God.
20.
I mean, whoa. And my mother was a teacher like yours. Yeah, totally balling. And my mother was a teacher. And when I broached it with her, she was like, no, you don't. Yeah.
That's how my mom
So I was not encouraged to do it initially, but ended up doing that, and I needed to stay in college for another year to do that. And my parents said, well, we'll pay for your 5th year, but we're not paying for your 6th. And anyway, so that's just kind of where I was. Yeah.
Awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom was kind of similar too in the aspect of like, are you sure? Are you sure? Because it definitely is. I mean, it's not one of those things you go into for the money. Let's be honest.
Right.
No.
I was just looking at that a couple of weeks ago. I was like, dang, I made that little my first year teaching. Wow. Like not something you.
Yeah, it's a hard. Yeah, it's a hard thing.
It definitely is.
Well, I'm intrigued since you kind of. When you got into it, was there, and we'll get into like the crazy ones in a second. I want you to take that one, but I'm curious. When was that? Tell me about that first moment when you was just like, oh, okay, I didn't realize like this was this. You know what I'm saying? Like when you realized like, oh, so this is what I can expect as being a teacher. Because I imagine, your friend was like, hey, you could do good at this. You know what I'm saying? You'd be a great teacher. But tell me about like that one moment where you was like, okay, so this is what I signed up for. Right.
Here it is.
Do you really want to hear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, so I had my goal was to teach high school because I didn't want. There was no way I was going to do middle school, and I didn't really have the heart for the littles in elementary, and I had student taught with seniors, and so I thought, oh, this is the dream, right? This is fantastic, and but there's not a lot of turnover in high schools with teachers, especially in English, and that they just kind of stay until you die. And so, so I started looking elsewhere, and I wanted to be in the Southeast, and I interviewed for a position in Savannah, Georgia. And it was in a middle school in a really rough part of town. And they just sold me. And I thought, this is awesome. And this is what it's going to be. Right. And these kids are going to love me, and I'm going to change the world.
Change the world.
And this is it.
You're so green.
And I came bounding down the Board of Education steps on Bull Street, and my mom was waiting across the street because she had come with me as I was interviewing, and I was like, I got the job. And I'm so excited, but it was something else. And it was a school that was positioned behind a row of crack houses.
Okay.
And
that says a lot.
Yeah. And the first day of school, one of the students cut through one of the houses, and there was a dead woman in the house. And that was, and
okay.
Yeah, and there were, kids in gangs in my 6th grade classes.
Wow.
And but one of the first days, it wasn't my very first day because this particular child had not come to school the first day, but it was the second day, and I'm in the classroom, and I've got my pumps on, and I've got my dress with my little Peter Pan collar, and we had to wear pantyhose back then. Okay. Even though, it was like Savannah heat and everything. Right. That was a requirement. You had to wear, nice shoes, pantyhose. And
Imagine teaching like that now.
And oh my gosh, and I'm dying. And this child comes into my classroom, and her first name was Ahura. Wow. And that's how it was pronounced. And she was in a gang, and the kids were working, and she came in and she said, close your books, to the kids. And the kids are all looking at me. And I was like, no, don't close your books. Don't close your, and I said, close your books. And it was this whole interplay. And then she went into this diatribe of names that she was calling me. Wow. And it was, and there were some kids who closed their books, but there were others who didn't.
Like, I don't know what to do.
I'm
scared of her, but I'm scared of
her. And I was like, what? So that was an eye-opening,
Welcome to education.
Welcome to education.
And what year was this?
That was my first job.
Oh, wow.
See, okay.
That was my first job.
So after teaching there, did you feel like you could do anything?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was there for 2 years.
Yeah.
Right.
And I absolutely, it was great confidence builder. And that's what I've tried to communicate to some of these new teachers coming in. I mean, oh my gosh.
If they can do this, they can do anything.
Yeah. I'm like, bless you, but you're good.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay.
That. Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah.
Because it's always that one.
Yeah. So I want to know about that, like, one student that drove you a little crazy.
And maybe almost had you say, you know what, almost.
Like, was that one of those moments right there that you were just
That was probably, there
especially your first year teaching?
Yes, that was, and I mean, there was a boy too, actually, the second year, who, and he was also in a gang. And he said to me one day, he was like, I can make more money standing on the corner in an hour than you're making in a week. So you don't need to tell me anything and this kind of thing. And I said to him, I said his name and I said, that might be true. And I said, but I know that I don't have to worry about watching my back, and I don't have to worry about other things, that I might, go to prison or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're probably, you're right.
Yeah.
But there's some freedom with what the choices that I've made.
Absolutely.
And I actually looked that child up years ago, because I just thought, some of them they just stay with you.
In your mind, yeah.
And I thought, I'm just going to Google him and just see. And he actually he's serving a life sentence. He killed a rapper, an up-and-coming rapper in Savannah, and that rapper's daughter was actually on America's Got Talent or one of those shows.
Wow.
I don't know. I shared the story with somebody and they said, that's so-and-so. That was so-and-so's father. The student. But yeah, so.
Well, and I think that's just a testimony to the fact that as much as we want to save them
Every
all,
child,
we can't always.
Right.
And sometimes as teachers, we're put in difficult situations where we're expected, and I feel like this has been a popular meme recently, is that teachers are expected to fix all of the problems of society and of this world, and we can't do all of that, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
As much as we want to, because we have the heart to, we can't, unfortunately. And sometimes students are a product of their environment, and there are plenty of students that make it out. There are plenty of students that are told one thing and end up somewhere else.
It's crazy because, when you said it, Tori, I'm thinking that was the one that you couldn't obviously connect with, right? No matter how much you got to reject. Even me, I've tried to reject, but at some point I was like, okay, let me just give it a shot. Tell us about the flip end, right? Tell us about that one student that you did connect with, or that one student that captured your heart, or that one student that was really struggling, but you made that connection.
Well, one that she just always stays in my mind was this one little girl that was with me in the middle school at Jones, and she just had a really challenging life. She was one of these kids that the parent looks like everything's going right, and beautiful mom and looks put together and everything. But there was a lot of turmoil behind the scenes. Yep. And I think there were relationship issues maybe that the mother had with, different people. And there was just a lot of movement. Right. And this child would just be taken out of school without warning.
Oh, wow.
And so she doesn't get to say, her goodbyes or anything. And that happened over the course of 1 year, 3 different times where this child was taken, and then they would go somewhere else. And then maybe a month or so later, she would come back. But she just was one that I just felt such a connection to. And she was always kind of disheveled, and where the mom was always completely put together. It was interesting. Right. The mom had this whole other persona going on, and the child was just kind of everywhere,
taking the brute end of it.
Yeah. And, but just so lovable and just so sweet. And and her mom was very tall and thin and kind of looked like a model. And this child, Julia, she just would love like hugging on me. And she would say oh, you're just so soft. You're so soft. And I'm like, yeah, I'm soft. All right. And everything. But she just found some comfort.
You, obviously,
she just found a lot of comfort in that. And I would just love on her like all the time. And she, bless her, she would bring Vienna sausages in a can like into class sometimes. And I had like a pretty fast rule, like we're not eating in here but I just felt like, I think she needs like to have her little Vienna sauce. So I'm like, that's okay. You just eat your sausages and we'll get it done. And she's one that stays with me.
And I'm sure because you've been to so many different types of schools, you've seen different challenges connecting here or there. You seem like a very fun-loving, very down-to-earth type of teacher. You seem like the type I would want to be in the classroom. And I know you deal with some resistance from time to time, especially, when you have students of color. What are some of the ways that you connect with them to let them know, like, hey, I get you. I'm here for you. I've got your back. Considering like that one school you were at in Savannah, and even today, like what are some of those ways, especially in the climate that we're dealing with today?
Well, I think it's just so important that all children feel like we see you,
right,
and you matter,
right,
and you have value, right, and what you say matters, and what you're thinking, and all of these things, and I think just creating a safe environment where they can kind of let their guard down, especially in a middle school setting, because it's such a challenge.
Right.
And that's something that I just really try to build right at the beginning through just doing, a lot of social, emotional kinds of activities with the kids, which unfortunately this year, which is a year that we needed it more than ever.
It's hard right
It's
now.
been really hard.
Well, tell your school to order our next level students.
Okay.
Social emotional learning curriculum.
It's really
Okay.
good. It's really, really
So I would like that.
Yeah. We'll give you some stuff.
And they're all written on Lexile level.
Okay.
She's sold.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
She is sold.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have very, very, very diverse representation.
Okay.
And for us, that was important.
Right.
Because a lot of the teachers and schools we've been working with, they feel like there's only like one, kind of representation. And so we really try to make sure that, we have it's very diverse. I'll say that. Yeah, that's good.
Yes, and that's fantastic. And so, but then I think also I hear from a lot of the kids, they'll say like, you talk to us like you're our mama, and stuff. And so I think there's that too, that I think I'm not afraid to just kind of say what needs to be said sometimes to the kids.
So in this new school year, when you're looking at everything that's happening with the social, unrest and everything that's been happening in this country, what are some of the tangible things that, you do or you guys having conversations in the school, or you guys, like, what does that look like to let your students know, hey, I'm with you?
Well, unfortunately, there hasn't been as much of an avenue to do that. Originally this summer, I think there were plans in place in my district to do that. And they had talked about having like equity committees in schools and things like that. And because of everything else, I think that's kind of taken a little bit of a back seat, which is really unfortunate.
Right.
But, I understand why, because, we're all just kind of like, we're doing the best we can. And I just feel like, and one of the counselors at my school, she's so kind, we have an afternoon duty spot like in the same time, and I feel like she counsels me sometimes, and she'll always say, how was your day? And so we talk, and she's like, and she kept saying, you just have to lower your expectations a little bit for this year. You just have
absolutely. Yeah.
And I thought, she does make some good points. And so I'm like, my main thing is I'm keeping the kids safe.
Right. That's it.
And I'm letting them know that I care about them. That's number 2. And then if you learn something, that's number 3, and that's awesome.
Gotcha. Right.
But this year, that's kind of where we are right now.
Okay.
So I have a question for you with that, because you said that your counselor said that you just have to lower the bar a little bit for yourself right now because of the climate that we're in. Do you feel like your district is allowing you to do that?
Not really.
Okay. Can you talk on that a little bit?
We are, and I am thankful that we're being provided with some of the lessons that we're being provided by our district, by our county, because it is such a challenging time, and it's like we have enough that we're doing, and now we're teaching both at the same time.
Yep. Right.
Almost all
Concurrent
of the
teaching.
concurrent, which they say is hybrid, but it's not.
It's not hybrid. Hybrid is
It's
very
not.
different.
We're not pioneering a hybrid system. That's not what we're doing.
No.
Even though that's what is being said. That's not happening. It is concurrent learning.
Yeah.
And it is really, really
hard,
difficult. So I'm very thankful for the lessons that they provided for us, but it does not it doesn't really speak to what we need to be doing and with the children. And so that's that is really hard.
We first, heard about you and your greatness and your boldness.
Yeah.
Saying we read an article, and I'm going to ask that you talk about that. Like, let's just get right to it, right?
Okay.
There were some things that you put in place because you wanted your students to feel connected. You wanted some of them to know, like, hey, you matter. I love you. I'm here for you.
But it's also part of your AKS.
It is part of my AKS.
Yeah. So if you can kind of just talk about that and then some of the challenges that you've experienced from it, I think that's what our listeners, that's very inspiring. But it's also it's a topic that we've got to discuss.
So I have a Black Lives Matter poster in my classroom that is a beautiful piece of art that one of my good friends designed. Right. And I had purchased 2 signs from her this summer after the killing of George Floyd. And I wanted, one for my yard, and I wanted to keep one for my classroom. And
you put one in the yard too.
Oh yeah, one one is it's still out there. Right. And so I wanted that, and I put it in my classroom, and immediately, some people were saying, "Oh, I saw that you had that," and I'm thinking, yeah,
right.
What?
Isn't it beautiful?
Yes. Right. And I was getting also feedback from some people that, "Oh, I like your sign," and things, but different
everybody
opinions.
Didn't appreciate it.
Everybody did not appreciate it. And it was visible in some of my Zoom classes because it was behind my desk, and it was behind me. And we upload recordings of our lessons. And so apparently, we knew we were going to be more transparent than ever before because parents are basically in our classrooms now too. Right. And so I did get some feedback from a parent that he did not like it and wanted me to take it down. And I politely responded that I was not going to do that. Right. And I appreciated his opinion but there's the First Amendment, and I was not going to do that. Right. And so I was respectfully declining that. Right. And he had said he would go over my head if I did not remove it. And I thought that
that's
meant,
what you feel you got to do.
Yeah, okay. I thought he would do that with my principal, and I copied my principal on the response back to him. And he did not contact my principal. He went to Human Resources and at the county level and contacted them about it. And I received an email from them within probably a couple of hours and was asked to contact the HR representative. And so I did during my lunch break, because at that time I didn't have students with me. And yes, I had my hour break and for lunch. And so I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and call him. Let's do this. Yeah. And so I called him, which I think took him a little aback because I don't think he thought I would respond quite as quickly as I did. But so he. So he said that the poster was felt to be divisive and it was a distraction in my classroom. and that anything in my classroom should only be reflective of the AKS standards and language arts. And so I said, it does reflect my AKS standards. Mm-hmm. And these are the standards that are reflected. It's 10, 13, and 16. Mm-hmm. And so then he said, well, some people could see it as divisive, and you really should not have anything in your classroom that could be considered in that manner. So then I asked him, I said, well, so let me just ask you, I said, there are a lot of teachers here who have University of Georgia stuff.
I was going to say, what about sports teams?
Yeah, I said, they have University of Georgia things all over their classroom. And I said, I'm a mom of a Georgia Tech student, so that might offend me.
Wow.
And so...
Wow.
I was just about to say.
So, and then he kind of, hemmed and hawed a little bit, and he said, well, those are representing educational institutions.
Wow.
No,
I said
it's representing
football,
the sports.
I said football programs.
It's representing sports.
Okay.
Right.
So there was that, and and then he kept saying that it impacted my effectiveness as a teacher, which was really.
Yeah.
So
but
then,
the students not tripping.
Yes.
No.
The students love the Black Lives Matter poster.
And I was
It's the
getting
parents.
feedback from the students. In Zoom, either they would send me a chat, or, some would unmute themselves and say, I like your poster. Thanks,
Right.
So the impacting my effectiveness, and I asked him if he could outline that for me, how exactly, and that wasn't something that he was able to do. And then he did mention that there would be consequences if other parents complained.
The threats.
And yes. And so
that's when you caved?
And so I did not.
Hey, come on with
And
it.
I said, could you tell me what the consequences are?
Yeah, let's be clear.
And, and I also happened to mention that my husband's an attorney. And so I said, so I'm taking a lot of notes because my husband's taught me that that's like what I need to do with. So I said, I've got notes here. And I said, so I need you to tell me what are the consequences that would be given. Mm-hmm. Well, ma'am, I can't tell you that.
Right.
So
okay.
So I did not. No, the poster is there.
Right.
Oh, and I did ask him, like point blank. I said, "Are you telling me to remove the poster?" And he said, "No, ma'am, I'm not asking you to do that.
Right.
I am telling you that it impacts your effectiveness as a teacher." And
did you ask how?
I did, and he could not tell me.
Right. Okay.
And I'm sure we all know, and those listening are sure, it's more so some parents didn't feel comfortable, but that hadn't. I mean, it was in the background. It was a poster you put up. Mm-hmm. Imagine how your neighbors felt seeing it in your yard. What are they going to call homeowners association?
Right.
No, yeah, right. But I think that it's a true testament to you. The type of person you are, your character, you want to be relevant. You want these students to know, hey, I connect with you. I get it. Your life matters. I think it's an absolutely beautiful thing. I imagine you got more negative, but a lot more positive, would you say?
I got a lot more positive. I think I got more than 700 emails and messages.
That's
girl,
beautiful.
You got blown up.
From and me personally, I only received 4 negative emails.
Right. Forward those to me.
Okay. My principal, I think, did hear from about 100 people or so.
But he blocked it. He covered that.
He was, extremely supportive and absolutely.
Well, you blew up from that. I mean, there's a lot of articles, a lot of people writing and talking about it.
Well,
and I think it's a relevant topic.
Well, and ironically, what I've heard from some people is they said, well, actually, it did impact your effectiveness. Yeah. So the HR person is exactly right. It did because of the impact that,
the conversation.
The conversations that we started.
Now, I heard from a little birdie that there was a district, like town hall meeting, board meeting, and it was some students that had something to say about this.
Yes,
Tell us about
there were
that.
11 students who are in, I believe it's a group called Gwinnett Students for Equity, I think. And they're high school students across different clusters. Most were from GMST.
GSMST, yeah.
Yes. And I think there was one or two from Collins Hill and a couple different schools. And they spoke on my behalf, but also just on the topic of promoting equity in the schools, and that needs to be at the forefront, and that the district needs to do better. And they've said that they were going to do better, and we just haven't.
No.
And these are not students you knew? You didn't coerce them? You didn't ask them?
I absolutely did not know them. The one young man, Samad, did reach out to me and ask if they could read a letter on my behalf. And I said, of course, and he let me read the letter beforehand. And I thought that was going to be it, but I had no idea that all of those, young people were going to do that. So it's pretty awesome.
I think that this is just such a testament to what the act of one person standing up for their beliefs and standing up for others can do. We think that as one person, we can't make a difference.
Right.
And that really makes me think about voting, honestly, because for the longest time, I didn't think that my one vote was going to make a difference. And it's such a testament to the fact that you can. As one person, you can make such a difference, whether it is in voting, whether it is standing up for people and what they believe and what you believe, whether it is making people just feel seen and known and heard and loved.
That's it.
And that's our job as teachers.
That's it.
Like, yes, it is our job to teach kids the curriculum, but really, if we get down to it and we're really honest about it, we're teaching kids life skills. We're teaching them how to critically think. We're teaching them how to be lifelong learners. Because the question, especially as a math teacher, I get all the time is, where am I going to use this in the real world? And I'm like, you're not.
Yeah.
You just got to do it. But,
But I'm teaching you how to think critically. I'm teaching you how to problem solve. And I think it's a crying shame that we're not doing more for the mental health of our kids.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. Yes, 100%.
It's something inside here. And, I believe, he'll take what somebody meant for evil and turn it around for good.
That's a good
And so you did this. That person wanted to have a certain type of way. They want to email folks at the district and the HR at that school. But now we just got local, statewide, national attention. Yeah. Now more folks are listening. More folks are watching. More teachers feel like, hey, if she can do it, then I'm going to use my voice as well.
That's right.
Now we're having deeper conversations in the classroom. Now you've got different schools and different clusters and different districts having this conversation. And to have 9, 10, 11 students show up, at this board meeting and read letters on your behalf, and you don't have to do. You just like, hey, I did my part, and now they coming with it. That's like natural, and it became like a movement in its own way, and it's refreshing. And so, thank you for that.
Oh,
thank you for that. And thank you for not caving.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that could have been easy to say, okay, I don't want to get in trouble.
Right.
He was just like, all right, well, luckily I married me an attorney, and so he wants all the smoke. You know what I'm saying? And I'm grateful that the district didn't say you got to take it down.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm grateful. There are some districts in America that be like, you got to, we're going to let you go. I'm grateful that they say, you know what, because they probably like, well, look, we just don't need all this attention right now. We're in the middle of a pandemic. So I'm grateful that they didn't say, you got to. They was like, hey, you should. And you was like, respectfully, thanks, but no thanks. And so, that's refreshing. And I imagine what that does for the kids, because now they thinking like, man, she stood up for us. She used her voice.
Right.
We can use our voice as well.
So I want to know how you are, because as a math teacher, there's so many times where I'm like, I wish I had the freedom that like social studies and language arts, I feel like they have a little bit more freedom when it comes to like what you get to write about sometimes. And so I wish that I had that. And kind of funny way of how like what you're talking about is connecting to something I've thought about doing, and I'm like, am I going to get in trouble for this?
Do it.
But do I care?
Do it.
We teach proportions in 7th grade math, and I where this is going.
Come on with it.
I saw a video of someone talking about the ratio of Black people in prison in comparison to the population of the Black community in the United States, and is that proportional to the number of white people that are imprisoned in comparison to? And I'm like, am I going to get in trouble for this?
Yeah.
But you want
it's
real world teaching.
It's
exactly.
You want real world connection.
Right.
So am I going to get in trouble for this?
So pray on it and then do it. And if they let you go, we'll hire you.
It.
Okay, good.
I don't believe me. I know. So I think
that's good though.
But it's
way to be relevant.
Yes.
Wow.
Like we are also talking about looking at because we do probability. So, and a lot of statistics. So we wanted to talk about the numbers of COVID and how that has been, kids want to know where they're going to see this in the real world. Here it is. But I feel like they just want us to do like, probability of like, playing cards, which is still gambling. You know what I mean?
Is that okay?
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. So where's the line here? What's appropriate for middle school kids and what isn't? And if Jewel is going to go, protest with you, why can we not have that conversation in the classroom when she's in elementary school?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
She wants all the smoke.
And I love that. And I think that that's so important that if kids are going to talk about this outside of school, why can't we talk about it inside of school? So I say all of that to get around to the question of where are you planning on implementing some of this into those standards that are incorporated with that poster?
Well, I'm hoping to do more as we get a little bit further along in the year.
Yep.
We are using some of the plans that the district has put forth, but we're being allowed more freedom, I think, in the next semester. And so I'm hoping that I can do some things through different nonfiction articles, certainly with current events and writing about just different issues that are taking place.
So I see Ryan handed you the curriculums. Yeah. So we'll give you some of these now that you can begin to implement.
If
you're just looking for some
fantastic.
things within your class.
Yeah. And that is another point that I was going to make is I personally have been trying to, I feel like, let me be very honest, I feel like I haven't been as good as I should be on checking in on my students' mental health because my mental health has been just completely out of whack, which we've talked about this already on one of our previous episodes. But like, I've been struggling, and that has been a conversation that we've had on what about our mental health as teachers as well. And we're expected to do something that I believe is not sustainable.
Right.
Back in March, my principal said, what you're doing is not sustainable. Well, what we're doing right now is more than what we were doing in March.
Right.
So I don't know how they expect us to sustain that. But I did do a couple of mental health checks with my kids this week, and I cried after class to see where some of them are at, talking about the fact that they're having to up their anxiety medication.
Right.
The fact that they are so stressed about school. And when we have great curriculum around us that could be used, like why do school districts feel like they have to reinvent the wheel when it's right here in front of you? I mean, like, let's just listen to a few of these. This is for 8th grade. Count your blessings. We could afford to do that right now. Mental environment, the purpose for your pain. Dreams do come true. No one supports me. Parents aren't perfect. I think a lot of kids need to hear that right now.
Right. Right.
And I just, the first one just gets me. Your life has purpose.
Yep.
Our kids need to be doing this. I mean, since I teach 7th grade, I did the 7th grade one, and I remember doing this, and I think I even sent it to Jeremy and Ryan. I wrote, it asks you to like reflect on yourself. So whether you're going to draw a picture or a painting or a collage or a poem that reflects the beauty of you, of who you are. And I did that. And it was the most freeing thing that I could do as an adult. And this curriculum isn't written for me. It's written for them. So imagine what it did for me and what it could do for these kids. And I'm not sitting here trying to push this curriculum, you guys. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to say is that we need something for our kids. We need more than what we're doing. And the fact that I'm being told to be careful on how much time I'm spending on SEL and not the content is an issue.
Right.
I got told that this week.
Oh.
Watch how much you're spending the time on SEL and not the curriculum.
So let me
what?
Yeah, so let me say this, right?
Sorry, I know that was
I
a
feel
tangent,
your emotions.
but like,
I get it. Yeah, I get it. So, and I appreciate the reference to our curriculum, right? Your life has purpose. Like, I wrote that from a place of, shoot, I know how it feels to be.
Yeah.
My mom had me when she was 16 years old. I thought I was an accident. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't realize there was still a divine plan for my life. So I know how it feels for people to say, oh, you're cool, you're awesome, you'll figure it out. But then to feel like, but I wasn't even planning for it. Like, I'm an accident. Like, these are things that kids go through inside their brain. And so the social worker in me, everything in my heart aligns with social and emotional learning. So that's why we took the approach. And Tori, that's why we have so much of the guided thinking and ask yourself and the don't take my word for it. And we Lexiled all of it. And we aligned it all with Castle's 5 core competencies of social and emotional learning. We did that so that when they do take it in the classroom, you can still get the key vocabulary. We're still going to tie it back to science. We're still going to tie it back to history. We're still going to tie it back to math so that educators can say, hey, but it's still tying back to my lesson plan, but it's bringing some healing in the heart.
Yeah.
So I felt your emotion and your concern and your passion there. And it's weird. Like, our curriculum are so many schools across the country, but then there are so many others that's just like, well, I've been used to doing this. And I'm like, if you're getting results, keep doing it. But if not, you got to ask yourself, like, if it's not connected with the kids, I have to look at something differently. And so, these kids are struggling. We already know this. Yeah, we already know this. And so everything that we do, Tori, like when I'm up early in the morning, I'm asking myself, like, how can I make the biggest impact? Right? How can I be most relevant? So we just did these 5 training modules for professional development because I know schools aren't bringing in speakers. I'm not traveling like I used to. They're on a budget. We just put together, I just did 5 professional development, 45 minutes to an hour-long training modules on self-care, which is huge, right? And then I did one on diversity, equity, inclusion. I did one on conquering COVID, to show, educators like how you can master, this COVID space. You know what I'm saying? School culture was another one, and I forget the 5th one. I talked about self-care, school culture, conquering COVID, but it's another one. But I did those because we needed something for those educators to feel fulfilled. Because, these kids are struggling. So I want you to talk about your struggles in a minute, and then we're going to land this plane. But the kids are struggling, but I know the teachers are struggling too. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to this implicit bias, that was the 5th one. I did one on it. I went there. Yeah. And as I was speaking, I'm thinking like, it's one thing if I could talk about implicit bias in front of a couple hundred teachers. But when they're watching the video, like I'm already knowing how some of them is feeling and in their feelings. But these are conversations we have to have. Yes. But at the same time, I want to love on them and encourage them because it is hard. So what ways are you taking care of yourself? What are things are you doing to make sure that you stay current and relevant, but you also make sure that you're leading and teaching and educating from a pure place?
Well, I think I definitely do a lot of that self-reflection. And I think, some of my meditation time comes in the car, in my commute, I'm sure with your commute as well. And just getting outside and
that vitamin D will do something to you.
Yes. And especially now with this beautiful sweater weather.
Right.
Sweater weather. Love that.
It's my favorite.
And I think trying to maintain some connection with other teachers, but that's also a challenge right now because we don't really have that time to do that.
And you're trying to remain distant.
Yes. And we're masking up and we're doing all of that. So it is really, really tough. Yeah. I think in a lot of ways I'm getting along better with my husband now because he's kind of my primary person because I don't have it as much at work. Right. So and he's a really good sounding board for different things that are going on and that. And so that's been helpful. Yeah. But
and it's crazy in the midst of everything that's been happening, you putting that poster up, I imagine you're probably thinking like, this is the last thing I need now. Right. Is to have to justify, but at the same time, it's like you took that hit, but it was liberating for so many others.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
and
to
yeah,
have
and,
this
and
conversation.
And it truly was surprising because I was thinking, in the midst of a pandemic and all of this, this is what we're worried about.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It's not like you had a T-shirt on.
Mask
Yeah.
They looking in the background like, what is that?
So what is that? What does
Yeah.
that say? And I'm thinking, my head's so big. And like my head was in front of the poster much of the time. So yeah, I think they were analyzing like, oh, she just moved, and I think that says, and
Yep. Hey, but
yeah.
you know what though? This is not what we signed up for, but this is what we signed up
Yes.
for.
Yeah.
Representative John Lewis didn't sign up to get his head bust. He didn't sign up to be arrested 45 times. He didn't sign up for the death threats. My man was not even sure if he even felt safe getting married and having children because he knew of all the hatred that was out here.
Yeah.
But he signed up for justice. He signed up for equality.
Yeah.
He signed up for peace. And so those are just some of the things that came with it. And you hung in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So we got 2 questions for you. We're going to get to the fun Tory part in just a minute.
Okay.
If you can change one thing about the educational system today.
Go there.
Like if I was in the White House and they was like, Jeremy, you got the budget, and I'm like, all right, what you want to do with it? What would be the one thing that you would change about the educational system today, and why?
I would really like teachers to just be trusted as professionals. That would be probably, and to be given more autonomy in our classrooms and not be necessarily,
Yeah.
kind of
Micromanaged?
reminded, micromanaged
That's the word I
about,
like to
have you thought about this and what are you doing with this? And I think just having that element of trust.
Yeah.
And because that's just something that we as professionals just are not afforded
Right.
like we really should be.
Right.
And that's the thing. We are professionals.
Right.
I specialize in, I went to school, got a degree in this.
Right.
And in this particular content, and I've been teaching this particular grade level and content for 5 years now. Mm-hmm. What?
So you know what you're doing. Yeah, you would think.
And so the
Tori,
person...
have you considered, I
Right.
know what I'm doing.
Have you considered stepping back into my classroom and trying this?
Right,
Have you
wow.
considered, when was the last time you were in the classroom, boo-boo?
And that's something
I'm just saying.
I made that point to my husband. He said, boy, that's interesting. I said, right now, the way the schools are set up, we have too many administrators.
Yeah.
Because, there's not any kind of discipline issues going on or anything. And we have a shortage of teachers.
Yeah.
And he said, I wonder if they'll bring any of them back into the classrooms. And I think
it
was
would
just
be smart.
Yeah, and that's something else that I actually had said before. I was like, if I were Betsy DeVos, I think there should be some sort of a program where an administrator it's like required that you come back in for a set, and you can still make your same salary, but that you come back in and teach a class from.
Yeah.
We had something similar. We had a principal on a few weeks ago, and he was saying that one of the things that keeps him so grounded, remember, he was just like that he stays in tune with the teachers. He has that great respect for them. He gives them room. He never forgot, though I think he'd been in administration for like 17 years. He was like, I never forgot what it was like. I really give them their respect. I respect them for what they're doing, and that's a healthy perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that that's so important. Like, I got an email the other day, and it was like, in between class changes, while kids are taking a break, why don't you take a break too? And I'm like, cool, who's going to watch the kids? Cool, who's going to clean the desks?
Right.
Like,
yes.
you are so disconnected.
Right.
Stop
Do you
being
have
so
any
disconnected.
idea? Yes.
Right.
And so I think that is so important. And I will say I have a friend that teaches at a private school, and their administrator teaches a few math classes.
Yeah.
And so I love that. I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
I feel like we are kindred spirits, ma'am. There's so much that you're saying that I'm like,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, this has been good. I feel like you're ready for rapid fire.
Yes.
Okay.
Are you ready?
This is my favorite part. It's fun, but don't get any questions wrong, of course.
Okay.
We got a little buzzer that's going to open up the floor.
Oh, no.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
All right, 60 seconds. Yeah, you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
You ready? Go.
What's your favorite car?
The giggles.
I'm so worried. Okay. Well, I do have a Mercedes convertible.
Nice. Come on, drop top.
all
Let's
right
go.
Then first celebrity crush.
Andy Gibb.
Okay.
Okay. How long does it take you to get ready?
An hour.
Oh, okay. What is your favorite childhood TV show?
Sesame Street.
Okay.
Classic.
Favorite day of the week?
Saturday.
Oh, okay. Polka dots or stripes?
Polka dots.
Do you snore?
Yes.
She's like, yeah.
Yeah.
What is your ideal temperature outside?
Ooh. 70 degrees.
Right now. What is your favorite carnival food?
Funnel cakes.
Oh, so good. And how long can you hold your breath for?
Oh, gosh. 30 seconds.
There we go. Good stuff. It has been a pleasure to have you on with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for your heart. Thank you for your passion.
Yeah.
Thank you for your relevancy. You keep fighting. You keep advocating. You keep ruffling the feathers.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you're going to take the students, the school, districts, county-wide to the next level.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you
All
for
right.
hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And thank you guys
you.
for joining us today. Don't
Yes.
forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube,
Yep.
all the podcast places. And don't forget to leave us a review because
5 stars.
there's no way that you didn't love this episode.
5
let's be honest.
stars.
So
Yeah.
go ahead and get us a 5-star rating. Leave us a great review, and maybe we'll read it one day.
Yep. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.